Welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Geordie Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. For the latest in lifestyle and entertainment news, head to itsallher.com. Welcome and happy Monday. Last week's episode went international. 10 media outlets across the world wrote articles on my interview with Tess Struber about her rather horrific experience with trolling and someone stealing photos of her child. If you have not listened to that episode, you must listen. I will leave the link in the show notes. I want to get straight into this week's interview with Suzan Mutesi. It's a good one. She is a Ugandan-born Australian model, actress. She's a content creator. She's an author. She has over 600,000 followers on Instagram, and it's not difficult to see why when you scroll through her feed. It's not only a really raw, real insight into her life, but it's just colourful. Her fashion sense is just incredible. So if you haven't checked her out yet, I will leave the link to her feed in the show notes. Just a warning, we do talk about racism in this episode, so if that brings up any issues for you, feel free to skip this one. But without further ado, here is my chat with the wonderful Suzan Mutesi. Suzan, thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. I can't wait to hear all about your life and your work. You do so much.
Yes.
You're originally from Uganda and you moved out to Australia when you were quite young.
That's
Can you
correct.
tell me a bit about that experience and as a young girl, what were your thoughts and feelings about moving to a completely new country?
I think it was scary, but I think for me, the excitement came about because I was joining my mum.
Yeah.
So it was more of like, because my mum left me when I was 2 to move here so she can, work, support us and send us money back in Africa. So when I was 11, it was kind of like I'm finally meeting my mum and I get to experience the other side of the world and how she's been living. So for me, it was more like rejoining my mum, and it was just excitement. And it felt awkward the first time obviously we met because I'm like, oh gosh, like it's so, because you just have an imagery of how she looked, felt,
So you hadn't really met your mum until you were around 11?
Yeah, because she was working. And those are like, because she left me when I was a bit younger. And but that's the only way to support us and to be able to get all of us in school. And
so that's quite a common occurrence.
I think you do what you got to do to support your family, especially like in a third world country. If you don't have enough, and most parents go overseas and they send money. A lot of African people, when they come here, they work double more than what they have to take care of their relatives back home. So you're not just supporting yourself, you're supporting your uncles, your aunties, like it's a whole village. They say it takes a village to support a child. That's what
And so who were you being raised by when you were living in Uganda?
My sisters, aunties, and occasionally my dad, because my dad a lot too. So most of the time I would school was in boarding schools. When I'll come back home for holidays, that's when I'll get to see everyone. So it was different.
And so what are some of your earliest memories of being in Australia?
Oh my gosh. I think when I came to Australia, it was it was quite overwhelming. It was nice. I love Australia. It reminded me of Africa, but the better version of Africa. The weather is beautiful. The roads are better. What I like about Australia, if you've been to Africa, it's how wide and green it is. Like and for me, that's why I'm like, I love this. It's not too strange. I love the greenery. I love I love that. The only thing that was quite interesting for me when I was crossing the road, and the little thing, like, the thing tells you cross now when you don't, what do they call it?
Oh, like pedestrian crossings.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Because in Africa, you you can't cross the road. You have the cars, the cows, everything is just moving. So it will take you a minute to cross the road.
Yeah,
So
wow.
when I saw that, I'm like, they have robots. They just leave their cars outside. When I saw the car where they sell cars and stuff, I'm like, yeah, they just
Yeah.
leave their cars there. People don't have gates to keep their cars. That's so strange. Like things like that. Like obviously, like I've never been on a train, so that was my first experience on a train. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing moves and it takes
Yeah.
place. So everything was quite new to me. It was the
Yeah.
first time I caught a plane to come to Australia. So for me, everything was like first of the
Brand
first.
new.
Yeah, it was. I just had that wonder, and I just fell in love with Australia, and I just saw hope, and I just saw opportunities, and I just saw potential, and I just saw. I'm like, what is this land? It's just so beautiful. I want to immerse myself in it, and
Do
I
you
want to
think
be a
that's
part
maybe why
of it.
you do so much? Is that you just want to take advantage of every opportunity?
I think, to be honest, I didn't even know I had a creative bone in me. I think
Yeah.
it came from when I was doing high school. For me, all I would think of, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer because, with lawyer, you get money, enough money, you can take care of your family. My like Africans don't believe creativity is like a job per se.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just changing gradually mindset. That mindset is
Mm.
changing gradually because they're like, how are you going to feed yourself? Like, you're going to be waiting for a gig for how long? Hello, who's going to pay? Who's going to pay the rent? Okay. So, like for us, we're very like, that's great, but the reality. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
So, so, so I was thinking I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to study hard, and then I did but I did like arts and drama in school, and I was just in all my creative classes. It was where I was
Mm.
thriving the best,
Yeah.
and I discovered I have like I'm creative. I love it. I enjoy it. I'm at peace with it. It's where I wanna be. And then
Yeah.
it's through trying things and discovering, oh my gosh, I could actually do design. I remember my art teacher, she saw something I created for an art thing. And I would sit, she was so interested in Africa. So she would really sit down with me and would mold and make things. And she would ask me questions about Africa. And she's like, what do you want to be? I'm like, I don't
Mm.
even know. I know my parents would either want me to be a doctor or a lawyer because it
Yeah.
just makes sense. She's like, Sus, you've made this dress. You could be a designer. You could do acting. That this
Mm.
you can't do all those things. I'm like, are you sure? Like, we are allowed to do that? She's like, yes, you can do that here.
Yeah.
So I'm
Wow.
like, wow. And then so from there, I enrolled into like a fashion school,
Mm-hmm.
and I did Bachelor of Visual Communication. I majored in fashion design. But on like in holidays when people went to do like partying and stuff, I was doing like summer classes at NIDA, doing acting classes in NIDA. When people were going to schoolies, I was hustling in the factory, trying to like
Yeah. Right. So it
that.
never stopped for you.
For me, it never stopped because like it's always like you just gotta do something. Like I always because first of all, I was the only black person in most of my classes in
Mm.
we were raised. So even like when we applied for work, I I wasn't always given opportunities because they're like, no, you're just an immigrant. You don't have the skills. You haven't got the experience. So you have to
Yeah.
do city jobs to get all the experiences. So that way you can be recognized or be like, oh, she's worked with Australians before, she can do it. You
Mm.
can speak English. Like I
Yeah.
speak English. We're colonized by the British. Thank you, British. I know what you did was not the best, but thank you, Lord. I speak English. But
Did you feel like that you almost had to work harder to prove
yeah, I
yourself?
always have to work, even like now, like even regardless of what you do, I always feel like you have to work extremely harder to be something, or be recognized for something, or be extremely different from the rest, so people recognize your indifference in a creative manner.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing about it, it pushes you to discover uniqueness in you.
Yeah.
And abilities that you didn't know you have. Because I don't think if you don't have it and you force it, you're thriving, and they will see you're forcing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, because I've been thrown on the deep end of everything, I find myself learning how to swim in deep oceans.
Yeah.
Even when it's scary and I have sharks and I have all these obstacles, I find a way to survive in it, in that sense, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I read an interview of yours where you said that sometimes that you wished that you had lighter skin, or that you were even mixed race.
Yes.
What would you say to, because it feels like you have come into your own, and you are just so fierce, and you own who you are, and you're vibrant and colorful on Instagram, you can just tell. What would you say to that younger girl who was wishing she was different? What would you say to her now?
I think that's why I wrote the book Unapologetically Black, because I realized, like, I cannot change nothing, and the best of me is me. And I think if you want the best of me, if I want the best of from me, I have to accept that and work from that. And I think I realized that it doesn't matter if an opportunity is not given to me, was never mine in the first place. And great opportunities will come my way. The right people will see me. Sometimes it just takes the right person to see you. And thousands may not see me, but the right individual will see what I need in that space. And I've been lucky. Like, and I think from that place where I started owning my indifference, like my body, my color shade, like, I'm not gonna bleach my skin for anybody. I'm not gonna try and do things that do not, make me. I want to be the authentic Suzan, like, without apologizing for that. Dark, beautiful, curvaceous, laugh. And I think when you be the best authentic self, you produce the best authentic things. And I think it becomes relatable. It becomes relatable. It becomes admirable. Like, people relate to that, I reckon.
Yeah. And you were saying just before that you want to be seen for who you are. I mean, you're certainly seen. You've got like 600,000 followers on Instagram. So people are seeing you, and they obviously love what you do. They love your content. Why do you think so many people are invested in you and resonate with your story?
And I think we're all like, I feel like we are old, but there is always a scared child within everybody. We all have faced fears and insecurities, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white. We all struggle with inner insecurities that we may not have to voice, but we all have something. Some of us, it may be skin color, like trying to be accepted for who you are, because even still now, like, you'll see that they'll pick other people over you in so many places, but you have to find a way of not letting that stop you from being you. Other people, it could be their body shape. Other people, it could be the fear of trying. Other people could be, I've seen the most beautiful girls, but because their personalities are so vibrant and this and that, and people don't accept them for that. I've seen people who have the most beautiful legs and they're still not content. And I think it comes from a place where we all struggle, and the imagery of what social media sometimes wants us to be, the imagery of what the world puts up there. We have to be this and that, and sometimes that can play with our minds, and we all struggle. We're humans. It's okay. We all struggle, and I think people resonate with that. Like, we've all gone through that those moments of, everyone has gone through it. Even the most confident person, I've seen them fail in the most, where they will tell you, I'm so confident, but I have to literally convince myself I can do this every day. I remember there is someone who told me, do it scared. It's like, Sus, it doesn't matter. Do it scared. Smile yourself through the whole thing. And when people see you're confident, trust me, you'll not even realize. And that's one thing I've told myself. Nothing is going to stop me from trying things. I'm just going to do it scared. I'm the most shy. I'm still shy. I'm
Yeah.
the shyest person you ever meet. Like, I can get really shy and nervous. Like, I
Yeah.
have to self-affirm myself sometimes in my
Yeah.
head. Like, you can do this. I'm like, you're amazing. You're tough.
Yeah.
You're courageous. You got this, girl. And
Yeah.
I'll tell myself, like, if you ever catch me in any moment, you see me self-talk. You see me self-talk. Like, if you people don't see it, but I think if I had cameras watching me, you will catch me do this. You can
Yeah.
do this, sis. Like, I snap out of the
I'm
reality
the
of what.
same though. Like
Yeah,
I do acting and the podcast and I host events and things like that. But there's also a part of me that's really shy. And when I tell people that, they're like, I don't believe you because you do all this sort of performing and everything. But that's like us as complex humans, is that you
yeah,
can love to perform and be in front of the camera, but there is often a really shy introvert behind all of that.
exactly. That is just like, yeah. And I think that's what makes it beautiful though, because you have that side to humble you, to realize that you need the grace, and you need people, and you need the right people to be around you. You need the
Yeah.
right, and I think that's what makes us humans. That's what makes us to be able to build the right relationships, build people in our lives that encourage us. And even me right now, I always say, as I get this platform, I want people that just bring the right energy in my world. And
Yeah.
I love people who are killer bosses. I'm like, give me the best girls that are killing it in their fields. I
Yeah.
love that. I love a girl that is just a boss lady doing her thing. And I think you learn from that. Some people get intimidated by that. They get jealous and they get catty, and they, like, you can have, like, I've seen it, and in this world, like social media, whatever, you find even acting, like people start comparing
Yeah.
this friend. I'm like, it's not about that. Just
Yeah.
do you, like,
I
just
think
do
it
you.
also is because it's such an inherently competitive industry, especially in Australia.
Yeah,
There's so many people that want to be actors or entertainers, but there's only so much work going around. So I
yeah,
think that maybe does foster that competitive.
yeah. But I love a healthy competition. I'm like, if
Yeah.
I'll get competitive for a healthy competition. But like, and also in regards to acting in Australia, I also feel like it's limited for the narratives are always written for the Caucasians. And like, I remember, like, it's so funny because my agent, there's a time my agent was like, so there's a role coming, but you play a slave girl, but that's fine, right? She's like, I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. But it's the truth. That's how like
Yeah.
the stories are written like that. My agent can't do anything. He
No.
can't tell the writers, this is what you should write. You creating the stories, you have an imagery of what, like, a typical Australian culture should be, but we're very diverse in whatever we do. Like, but whoever writes the stories, and the producers and the directors and the story writers, those are the ones who can change the narrative. But you know what I mean, like, to kind of like intertwine stories and put beautiful people together that just that show a beautiful rainbow of color, of
Yeah.
diversity, of uniqueness, sexism, like all that beautiful, of the rainbow of what we claim is the rainbow. But like, if you show that, it's just so beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think relatable, because that's the world we're going in, if you think about
Well,
it.
that's this. Yeah. I mean, we are a multicultural society, and to not
Yeah,
have that reflected on mainstream primetime TV, it
it's
isn't reflective of what our society is.
yeah. And I think it becomes more relatable. And I think that's why a lot of actors eventually leave Australia, and they just become like Columinos, well known in what's its name, UK. um you know the
Yeah.
Americans are taking the Australians. I'm like,
Yeah.
do you have people you want to claim? Do you have, do you know what I mean? And you've
Yeah.
been failure to claim their own people in such a beautiful way, not just let them make it overseas and then we start acknowledging them, or
Yes.
let's just favor you, you know what I mean? Like, grow them, invest in them, and you will see what people can bring to the table, because we love this country. I love Australia.
Yeah. I want to talk about fashion for a moment. You have the most incredible fashion sense. I was scrolling through your Instagram and oh my God, it was just like incredible, iconic looks. Is it a natural flair to be able to sort of piece these outfits together? Who inspires you?
My fashion sense comes from a place of like how I'm feeling, the mood. Sometimes I envision, like, because I did that. I don't know if it's the design in me, like I envision colors. Like I could have an event and two colors will come in my mind.
Yeah.
In green or like a yellow, and that's the only color that's stuck in my head, and I will look for that color
Yeah.
and not stop. Sometimes I'm inspired by, yeah, like I visualize things. I'm a visual artist. I see before I manifest.
Yeah.
So I could be there and I'm like, I don't know, that could be cool. And then I'm like, oh, I could wear maybe like those weird pants, and because I've seen it in my head, it worked.
Yeah.
I how other people are going to perceive it, which is okay.
Who
Because
cares as long as you feel it?
it's so funny because you have visually seen it, so you
Yeah.
look mind, and then and then you wear it, and
Yeah.
it. But I've never been disappointed. Every time I do that, it's been received positively, and people love it. People just
Yeah.
love it. And I guess that's why I keep going to it. It's a place to be, because then I've already seen myself. It's like seeing art,
Yeah.
face and eyes and things like that. And you're like, oh, that works. Yeah. But I love being different. I love trying new things. I love trying colors. I love, to be honest, on my day to day basis, if you find me at home, you'll find me in daggy clothes, all black. But if
Yeah.
I think it's me overcoming my fear, because I still have that shyness and that battling every day, and that person who's like intimidated. So I think when I wear these outfits, they help me overcome that.
Yeah.
You're courageous, you can do it, you can walk anything, you can. I think it's more of also that whatever I put on, it's like an armor that helps me walk out there and just be
Feel
amazing.
confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have been called the African fashion icon that has conquered Australian fashion. How do you feel about that title?
I'm like, hey.
That's me.
Like, I was like, oh my Lord. Hey, I love it. 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 Like any recognition, like where people kind of like see your efforts. It's nice. It's quite lovely,
Yeah.
encouraging. It just tells you keep going. You're doing great, and yeah, it's encouraging. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, we've been through a crazy last 2 years with the pandemic, and you sort of touched on racism before, but I feel like COVID has fueled some pretty horrific racism. I know at the start of the pandemic, the Chinese community faced a lot of racism, and recently I read that there was a South African woman who faced racism after the most recent variant came out of South Africa.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, I guess, have you dealt with any of that? And what are your thoughts on people drawing parallels between a virus and where it originates from and making that a racial issue?
Humans. Who's looking for blame?
Yeah.
Yet the reality is in the system itself. Like that is like the systems that we've put there. Like, so like hating, like, and then that's what I'm saying. Like all these COVID things, like we should focus on what the issue is and not the individual, not because we should be helping each other, working together, making sure that we're doing what is needed for the community to stay safe. You know, looking at your other person, or because you're Asian, that's where it came from, so you have it, or you're South African and you do this and you do that. So it's just better that way, that we don't focus on other people but focus on that issue at hand. It's sad.
Yeah.
I think we can be better. And I don't know, like, I don't know how you can fight racism. I think it's just individuals, you know, and it's it of where people just have to look at people as an whole. It's ignorance, it's stupidity. It's not needed. We don't need. I've gone through so much as a nation, as a world. We have gone through so much. People have suffered. The least else to finger them out and like point them out and do all these things. We don't need that. And to be honest, like it is heartbreaking. Breaks my heart all the time when I see things like that. I don't know. It's something I just pray about. I'm like, I hope we'll be a better nation. I hope we'll be better people. And I always try and be a better person. Like, you will not see me just stick to my own kind. I always embrace all different diversities, color.
Yeah.
Like, I'm one of those people. I'm like, I'll lead by example, and I'll be the people can see. And hopefully, if that inspires other people to be different, then great. And love better. But if I see someone being racist, I'll call them out.
Yeah.
I'll call people being racist right now. Don't do it. Just not.
And I think that's another thing that I read recently as well, is that it's not enough to just not be a racist person. You actually have to actively be anti-racist.
You have to try and be anti-racist. Like, be mindful of the things you're saying. Be conscious of how you relate to people. Like, sometimes people of diversity, you could say a word and someone's like, oh, I don't understand you because you're Asian or you're this or you're that. No. If you don't understand, ask someone to talk slowly. Be kind. Like, try and that's how we can be better humans to one another, because fighting each other doesn't help. We've got a virus to fight.
2022, what does that hold for you? I know that you have released your memoir. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh my gosh, super excited. That took me a minute. But like wow, I cannot believe I actually backed that out. I'm super proud of myself, first of all, I have to say.
Yeah, of course.
But my memoir is a book that will comfort and advise immigrants, people of color, people, women, men. It will of all different diversity and experiences. Will entertain them. It will show my journey in the entertainment world, and it would you will learn from it. You will be inspired. You will be encouraged. It'll make you think. It will make you question yourself, and it will also make you, like, it will inspire you. It's a self-help book. It's inspirational. It's like, you will laugh about it too, but it also make you cry. It's a book that just came from an authentic self, where I just laid everything from my journey, my parents, everything. I just laid it there. It's pretty raw, but it's beautiful, and it will teach, it will educate, and it will show you a different side of me that I've never shown, maybe, or spoken about in deeper length.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Suzan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I will, of course, link all of the relevant pages in our show notes. Thank you so much for being so open and honest with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen, and I'll be back in your ears very soon.